Hello everyone. Today we'll be presenting our research titled The Impact of Inflation, Unemployment and Interest Rates Towards GDP Growth in Malaysia. This study aims to uncover the dynamic relationship between these three key macroeconomic indicators and Malaysia economic performance. We choose this title because we want to understand on how these three macroeconomic variables affect Malaysia GDP growth. It also provides evidence-based insight for better economic policy formulation. Our research approach is using quantitative analysis by using time series data, which is from 1990 to 2019. We are also using VAR and VECM models to analyze short-run and long-run relationships. Malaysia's transformation from a commodity-based economy to a diverse, export-driven one is commendable, yet challenges persist. Inflation remains sensitive to external shocks and currency swings. Unemployment, especially among youth, reflects a mismatch in skills and market demand. Interest rate policy controlled by Bank Negara Malaysia must balance spending stimulation with saving and banking sector health.
Malaysia's economy is shaped by inflation, unemployment, and interest rate. Inflation is rising due to global shocks and weak ringgit despite government subsidies. Unemployment is high among youth, driven by skill mismatch and automation. While interest rate held at 3% by Bank Negara aims to balance inflation and recovery, but may not boost investment or savings. This study explores how these factors interact, offering insights to support Malaysia's economic strategies. This study focused on four key questions. First, do inflation, unemployment, and interest rate each have a significant impact on economic growth? Second, do they jointly influence growth? Third, what is the short-run relationship between these variables and growth? And finally, is there a long-run equilibrium among them? To address these, we'll use the t-test to examine individual effects, the f-test for joint significance, the dynamic model to explore short-run relationships, and co-integration methods like Johansson's or Ingle-Granger to analyze long-run equilibrium.
This study looks at how inflation, unemployment, and interest rates affect Malaysia's economic growth from 1990 to 2019. It focused only on Malaysia's and used data from trusted sources like Bank Negara, Department of Statistics Malaysia, and the World Bank. We use methods like regression and correlation to find the patterns. There are few limits to the study. First, the data might not be perfect because some numbers could be missing or not matched. Second, we only study big picture economic factors and not the action of specific businesses or industries. Third, the models we use cannot show everything since the economy is affected by many connected things, so we take the result as useful clues, not final answer. I will walk you through key economics theories on inflation, unemployment, and interest rate. First, inflation. Money theorists like Friedman say inflation stems from too much money chasing too few goods. Keynesians divide it into demand pull driven by excess demand and cost push caused by rising input costs. New Keynesians add that price stickiness and expectations also play a big role. Next, unemployment. Okun's law suggests GDP needs to grow by 2% just to cut unemployment by 1%. Classical theory says unemployment eventually balances out, but Keynes argues it can persist due to low demand, what he calls involuntary unemployment. Lastly, interest rates. Classical economists view interest rate as driven purely by real factors like saving and productivity. Low rates boost investment while high rates encourage saving. Ultimately, interest rates balance the supply of savings with the demand for investment.
According to Hashim et al., 2019, unemployment has a strong negative impact on Malaysia's GDP, especially in the long run. Lubocheng 2020 found that inflation positively affects growth, while Pisisler and Koch 2021 reported mixed results, positive for inflation, negative for interest rate, and no long-term effect from unemployment. Samad et al. 2021 emphasized unemployment significance, negative influence, while inflation had a weaker impact. These findings highlight the complex and sometimes inconsistent relationship between macroeconomic variables and Malaysia's economic performance.
The methodologies used in this research are ordinary least squares (OLS), autoregressive distributed like ARDL, vector error correlation model (VECM), Toda-Yamamoto causality test, and panel data approach. For research gaps, many studies used outdated data, failing to capture recent microeconomic shifts. Inconsistent econometrics approach create difficulty in comparing findings. Limited focus on Malaysia-specific structural characteristics such as export dependency and demographic shift. Our research aims to bridge these gaps by applying rigorous methodology to updated nation data and by offering policy-relevant interpretation of both short-term shocks and long-term dynamics.
Let's take a quick look at the data source and measurements used in this study. This table outlines four key economics variables: GDP growth, inflation rate, unemployment, and interest rates. Each is categorized by type, unit of measurement, and data source. GDP growth is our dependent variables measured by the annual percentage of growth rate. The inflation rate, unemployment, and interest rate are independent variables. Inflation is tracked via the annual percentage changes in consumer price index, unemployment by the annual percentage of the labor force, and interest rate through the overnight policy rate or OPR. All data is sourced from the World Bank database, ensuring consistency and reliability. That's all.
This study applies the vector autoregression model to examine how inflation, unemployment, and interest rates affect Malaysia's economic growth over time. This model treats all variables as endogenous, meaning each one can influence and be influenced by the others. If we detect co-integration among the variables, we switch to the vector error correction model to capture both long-run equilibrium and short-run dynamics. To validate the model's accuracy, we conduct diagnostic tests. ADF for stationarity, Bruch-Pagan for heteroscedasticity, Bruch-Godfrey for autocorrelation, and VIF to check for multicollinearity. This empirical framework ensures we don't just describe relationships, we measure them reliably, offering policymakers solid insights for sustainable economic planning.
Now we are on part of research flow, where step 1 is problem statement and methodology. We begin by identifying the core economic challenges, namely the impact of inflation, unemployment, and interest rates on Malaysia GDP growth. Our research methodology is rooted in quantitative analysis using time series data from 1990 to 2019. Step 2 is data collection and preparation, where we gather annual macroeconomic indicators from reliable sources such as the World Bank database. Step 3 is stationary testing, where before any modeling can begin, we tested for stationary tools like the augmented Leakey Fuller ADF test. Step 4 is VAR model estimation. Once stationary is confirmed, we specify a vector autoregression VAR model to explore short-run relationship between variables. Step 5 is co-integration analysis, where to determine whether there is a long-run equilibrium relationship among the variables, we conduct a Johansen co-integration test. Step 6 is VECM implementation. In case where co-integration exists, we move on the vector error co-integration model VECM. Step 7 is diagnostic testing. We ensure the reliability of our result through diagnostic tests, checking for autocorrelation, heteroscedasticity, and model stability. This step is vital to confirm the robustness of our findings. Last step is step 8, which is interpretation and policy implication. We interpret the result in light of Malaysia economic context. Our goal is to deliver evidence-based policy recommendations that support sustainable GDP growth.